Hi, welcome to another episode of Straight Lions Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the 2015 Detroit Lions preseason. We're going to talk about it as a whole. We're going to take all the games, everything we saw, everything we liked, everything we didn't like, the players we like, the players we don't like, and we're going to do an overall show just on what we saw for the preseason. We're going to do individual games, but it's too hard to sample each one and tell us what you see. If I had a regular talk show on the radio or something, then that'd be more feasible. But just for a YouTube show, it's a little bit hard to just do an individual game, and it's such a small sampling of what you see. You see a lot of guys aren't going to be around. It's hard to get a gauge on where we're going. I'm more interested in what the 53-man roster is going to be. Some cuts are coming today. Actually, Kellen Moore was just cut, which I think is a good thing. We'll get into that in a second. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the Lions 2015 preseason as a whole. But I'd like to take a second and thank you guys for following us on Twitter at Straight Lions Talk, STR Lions Talk, and on YouTube channel, Straight Lions Talk, STR Lions Talk. I'd like to give a special shout out to Ed. He's been our biggest fan. I appreciate all you guys following us. And if you like the show, don't like the show, whatever it is, please send it out to your friends, anywhere, whatever form of social media you use, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, retweet. Whatever it is, if you like it, please retweet it, send it to your friends, send it to other Lions fans, post it on message boards, wherever. We're looking to grow and become bigger as a site. We just want to bring our version of the Detroit Lions to you, what we think about the Detroit Lions, and we think we have a pretty good perspective on it, and it's pretty realistic on where they're going, whether it's good, whether it's bad. We don't really hide behind anything, and we don't really follow the status quo on, oh, this guy's so great, that guy's so great. We kind of tell it how it is here. And that comes up with, we just give it to you straight Lions talk. And all we do is talk Detroit Lions football. That's it. We just tell you the comings and goings of the Lions, maybe some in-division stuff, and maybe whether certain teams were playing that week and how it affects the Detroit Lions. It's just Detroit Lions, not Bears, not this, not that, not Lions, or not Tigers, nothing. It's just Detroit Lions football. So with that said, we're going to jump into the Detroit Lions football season right now. The Detroit Lions started off the preseason against the New York Jets. Dominated them. Looked fabulous. They didn't have Geno Smith, but who cares? It'd probably been worse if Geno Smith was there. We killed the Redskins. We destroyed Robert Griffin. We probably ended his career just by making him look so bad. But as a whole, the whole team has looked very, very good this whole offseason. They look focused. They look like they're a mature team. They look like they're a well-disciplined team. They didn't make a bunch of dumb mistakes. Only against the Jaguars did we play bad. And then last night against the Bills, we played phenomenal. Considering it was the backups, but the backups had a focus to them. Wasn't a lot of mistakes. It just looked well coached. And I give the credit to Caldwell on that. But we all know where this starts. This starts with Matthew Stafford. Can Matthew Stafford step up and take the talent all of us can see and bottle it into a career from here on out that is as productive as maybe Brady, Manning, Breeze, one of those guys? Can he get to that upper level of quarterbacks? When you're talking quarterbacks, who do you want? Oh, and can Stafford's name be in that conversation? From everything we saw this preseason, it's looking that way. But I'm not trying to jump the gun. I understand it's vanilla defenses. It's no scheming. There's no preparation for it. They don't plan. There's nothing. It's just vanilla stuff. It's 1s and 2s and 3s. But for the time he was in there against the 1s and against some pretty good, decent defenses, he carved them up, just destroyed them. And his passer rating was almost perfect in the preseason. It's probably the best of all quarterbacks during the preseason. It was a small sampling, but I think it's a step in the right direction for Matthew Stafford. Someone that's been under a lot of criticism, and criticism by us also. We did a show about Matthew Stafford. Can he be a top 10 quarterback? I believe he can. And I believe this is the year he's a top 10 quarterback. And what I mean by top 10 quarterback is a 6, 7, 8 top 10 quarterback, not top 10 barely squeaking in, and you're kind of like, he's kind of top 10. No, I think he's going to be a legit top 10 quarterback. And I also believe where Matthew Stafford finishes in the quarterback ranking this year, whether it's 10, whether it's 6, whether it's 4, whatever it is, I think that's the ranking the Lions are going to have as a team overall. And what I mean by that is if Matthew Stafford's 6, the Lions will be the 6th best team in the NFL, because that's how it's going to go. Because I believe the defense will be not as dominant as last year, but I think they'll be a very formidable defense to go up against. They won't be a laughingstock by any means, but they're going to be a very formidable defense to go up against. So if Stafford can hold true and live up to the expectations that we set for him on this show, I think the sky's the limits for the Lions this year. As for Stafford, well, he looked good. Looks like he's been doing CrossFit all year. In great shape. He has all the arm talent. He has a quarterback IQ. He's got everything you want, the football intelligence, everything. But can he be consistent? Can he cut down on the mistakes? Can he be more accurate? Accuracy has been one of his problems. Will he be able to throw balls before the receiver gets out of his break? Can he throw the ball where the receiver's going, not waiting for him to get open with that huge arm he has? Can he develop a little more touch on some of the touch throws he needs? But I think he can. He looked good this offseason. He looks like he's in more control of the offense. He looks more focused. He looks more comfortable in the offense. And I give Joe Lombardi and Jim Bob Cooter credit for that, because they've done a great job. You can see overall with his mechanics, stands tall in the pocket, the ball's in an upright position underneath his chin. You can tell he knows what he's looking at. He's calling out the Mike linebacker for the first time. I've never seen that. I've never seen him do that. Dominic Raiola used to call it out. We don't want Dominic Raiola doing anything. That guy's terrible. I just think that sky's the limit this year for Matthew Stafford. I think he's going to put it all together, and this is the season he's going to have. I mean, last time he looked this good was the year he threw for 41 touchdowns in the preseason. So, I mean, he looks better now than he did then. So, and he has more offensive weapons. I mean, Golden Tate looks phenomenal. I think great things are going to come from Matthew Stafford this year. And as we said, we think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the upper echelon of the top 10, pushing in the top 5. If he can get to the top 5, that's just gravy for the Lions. That's going to be a huge year for the Lions. It'll be a huge year for Matthew Stafford, and who knows how far they can go in the playoffs on the back of Matthew Stafford. So I guess time will tell. We'll see. But our prediction on this show is that Matthew Stafford's a top 10 quarterback. As for the offensive line, that was a big concern coming in. We also did a show on that. Can they gel as one? A lot of new faces. Laken Tomlinson. Travis Swanson's the full-time starting center. Manny Ramirez, who we traded for in the draft, when we traded down, when we took Tomlinson, we got Manny Ramirez in that. Now, that looks to be a great addition to the team, because it built so much depth for the Lions on the offensive line, veteran depth. That's a good player also, who started blocking the back of Peyton Manning for the last 3 years. Larry Warford went down, we plugged Manny Ramirez right in. That's a huge get for the Lions. But for me, the offensive line looked great this offseason. We played the Redskins, we played the Jets, have a good, very, very good front four, and we held them back. They got a little push on us early, and we were able to stand our ground. And it's so nice to have such a formidable front three in the middle right now, and not having what we used to have is all that interior push coming in on Stafford. And I don't care what quarterback you are, Brady, Manning, Breeze, all those guys can't stand pressure coming up the middle. And that's what that other teams have been feasting on. With Stafford having Dominic Raiola there, people were just blowing him up left and right and pushing the interior of the line in back at Stafford. And I don't think he was ever comfortable back there, knowing Dominic Raiola was going to let someone in, especially if it was a very good defensive tackle. So having Travis Swanson, that's a plus. Larry Warford, if he can stay healthy, that's a plus. But having Manny Ramirez to be able to plug in, and he's such a situational guy, he can play left guard, he can play right guard, he can play center, he can probably play right tackle in a pinch if the Lions need it. So having that versatility with that extra player we picked up for trading down in the draft, that's a huge get. Congratulations, Martin Mayhew, on that. That's a good pick. That's a good trade, too. But getting Laken Tomlinson, the only criticism I have of him right now is he doesn't finish his blocks. And I think that'll come with time and a little more development. But if he would just finish his block off, he looks great other than that. He looks good in pass protection. He looks dominating against the run. He's a bulldozer. And we have Riley Reef on the left side. He looks to be solid. I don't think he's going to wow anybody or make any Pro Bowls, but he's solid. On the right side, right tackle position, can Adrian Waddle stay healthy? Can he do it? We have Cornelius Lucas over there right now. I'm not his biggest fan, but he's serviceable. He's our best option. He seemed to have a very good preseason when asked to step in. But, man, Waddle needs to stay healthy. That guy cannot seem to stay healthy. And he showed so much promise coming out as an undrafted free agent from Texas Tech. I thought we found a diamond in the rough. He could move. He was a powerful blocker, good against the run. I mean, that was supposed to be his weak spot. He's supposed to be a great pass protector, but weak against the run. He really didn't have any problem running to that side, him and Warford. Larry Warford's dinged up again. He's had a few injuries in the last couple of years. Can he stay healthy? Because when he's in there, he's a road grader too. So, but right now, I think the Lions line is ahead of where we thought they would be at this point. I thought they were going to be a little bit of a project throughout the year, and they were going to take a little time to gel as a cohesive unit. And it looks to me like they're ahead of the pace. I'm trying to temper my expectations here a little bit, just for the fact that I know that the teams don't blitz, they don't scheme, they don't, there's no ones in all the time. It's not a continuous onslaught against the offensive line during preseason. But for the small sampling we got for the starters, I liked what I saw. This is what I saw. I saw no push. I saw the Lions making a pocket. I saw the Lions giving Stafford time to throw the ball downfield on the deep routes. I saw them knocking players back and opening holes for the run game, getting to the second level, getting into the linebackers. So those are all plus, 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 plus. The only negative I have is it's inexperience. Are they going to be able to keep and be as one cohesive unit? That was easy for me to say. A cohesive unit all year long. Are they going to be able to stay healthy? That's the biggest thing. Having the addition of Ramirez is going to help, because I know there's going to be dings and dungs here throughout the year, but are they going to be able to stay healthy throughout the year? That's going to be the biggest question mark for the offensive line. Because other than that, we're one of the youngest offensive lines, and we're very athletic. So I think only the sky's the limit, but can they stay healthy will be the biggest issue for the offensive line this season. Let's move on to the running backs. We all know Joyce Bell's a little bit dinged up. Boy, coming back from a knee and an Achilles, is he going to be the same player? Is he going to be, take a couple, 3 weeks to get right? But whatever it is, I hope we don't rush him back. And I don't think we need to, because obviously we saw the superstar week 1 preseason, Amir Abdullah. I mean, geez, Pete, I thought people were going to put him in the Hall of Fame after seeing what he did to the Jets that opening week for the preseason. But, I mean, he was phenomenal. I'll give him that. Our pick was Duke Johnson. That's who we wanted. He was there. They went Amir Abdullah. They're 1A, 1B. You watch the video on them. There's really not much difference between them. Duke Johnson does a few things a little bit different than Amir Abdullah. Their skill sets are just a little bit different, but for the most part, they're the same player. I think Amir Abdullah was the right choice for what we want in a running back in our system. He can catch the ball in the backfield. He's good against on the pitches. He's good running the ball up the middle between the tackles. I think he's going to be a very solid pro. He could be one of those guys in a few years when you go back and redraft. I think he could be a guy you say, you know what, he's a top 10 pick now. And I know there's not a whole lot of value for running backs in the draft, but that could be a guy. Just like the Seattle Seahawks, their whole team is the guys you go back on the offense and defensive side of the ball, take their stars and where they were drafted and put them in the draft tomorrow or next year, and all those guys would be first-round picks. Probably top 15 first-round picks, a lot of them. So that's what the Lions need. The Lions need to have a guy like Amir Abdullah play beyond his draft position at a higher level. If he can, being a late second-round pick, can he be the guy that should have been pick 15 or pick 20? That would be great. That'd be huge for the Lions. I think Amir Abdullah is going to have a nice career. I'm trying to temper my expectations just a little bit, just for the fact of being a Lions fan and being burned by Javid Best and Mikel Lashore. Best, he showed what he could do. He was phenomenal when he had the opportunity to play. He was electric. He was dynamic. The Lions' offense was better every time he was on the field. He was a difference maker every time he touched the ball. He just couldn't stay healthy. I think that just burns Martin Mayhew to the nth degree, because he knew he got the pick right. He just couldn't stay healthy. Now, Mikel Lashore, on the other hand, was a camp superstar, was destroying the Lions in camp. He was better at every aspect of football that they thought, and he ended up tearing his Achilles, and he was never the same. Because when he was in college for the University of Illinois, he was a great player. So maybe that Achilles, people react to things in different ways, and the way he was built, maybe that Achilles injury really hurt him. So I'm just trying to temper my expectations a little bit for Amir Abdullah, because he needs to stay healthy, and he needs to play a full NFL season, and we'll see what happens. But I think he's going to be a very nice player for the Lions, and I really like the direction he's headed with the Lions in this particular offense. But the other player I want to talk about is Theo Riddick. He looks stacked coming in. I kind of had some negative things on him. I kind of wanted the Lions to maybe take Jay Ajayi to replace Riddick, and or maybe take Duke Johnson after they had taken Amir Abdullah to replace him, to have more of a formidable running back situation, because we needed some production out of there, and that was one of the things that hurt us last year, only having Bell and really nothing else to rely on. But, Theo Riddick serves a great purpose in this offense, and I was wrong. He has come in. He's been a great receiver of the ball, as we all know. I think he serves a great purpose in that role, because he's kind of more of a, is he more of a receiver, or is he more of a running back? But he's versatile enough to play both. And if you have versatility, that gives you options, and options are dangerous. If you have options, it gives you more options to do what you want with the offense. So if he can be a factor on third and longs, maybe some special teams, and come in key situations and key packages, you know what? Having that extra guy, being a weapon, more of a Shane Vereen type, that can be nice for the Lions. He's developed very well. The Lions have been patient with him. They saw what they wanted to do with him, and they've done it. That's a sixth-round pick that could be a contributor for the Lions. And that's what we need. We need total value out of our draft. And I think we're getting it. I think he's playing beyond a sixth-round pick right now, which is good. He's probably playing a fourth-round pick role. But, hey, we'll take it, because all he's going to do, it looks like to me, is grow within this team and the offense. So, kudos. I think the Lions running back situation is in good shape if they can stay healthy. Health is going to be the key. It's the key to every NFL team is health. And the running back situation for the Lions, they're a little dinged up right now. But if they can stay healthy, that'll be the key. And Amir Abdullah was just named the starter. So that's where we go from there. But let's move on to the Lions wide receivers and tight ends. We all know the dilemma with Joseph Fourier. We traded for Tim Wright, which everyone, in typical Lions fan fashion, everyone's going nuts that we got Tim Wright. What the heck has Tim Wright done? He caught 6 touchdowns last year. Big whip. He's been on 4 different teams in the last 3 years. The same team twice. So, and great, he has a Super Bowl ring. Well, big whip. He wasn't that much of a factor during the Patriots season. Only when he played against the Lions, he destroyed us. But that's whatever. I'm not concerned about Tim Wright. I think he's a non-factor for the Lions. It's a dumb trade. He was traded for a backup kicker that wasn't going to make our team anyway. He had a good preseason, but I'm glad he went to Tampa so he can play, because he got the job today. But big whip. We got Tim Wright. Okay, wow. We have Brandon Pettigrew. He was a non-factor last year, caught 10 balls. He's more of a blocking tight end now. He doesn't really factor into the passing offense hardly ever. Eric Ebron, he's the big ticket. I thought he had a very, very productive preseason. For what limited time he played in the limited role he had a nice catch in one game on a slant route, took a hit, held on to the ball. That's what we need him to do. We don't need him to be Jimmy Graham. We need him to be 2/3 Jimmy Graham. That's it. He doesn't have to be Jimmy Graham. He doesn't have to be Gronk. He just needs to be in the upper top 7 of tight ends, somewhere between 4 and 7. That's all he needs to be for this offense to be productive. He should have those opportunities with guys like Calvin and Tate on the outside. The middle of that field is going to be the key for the Lions' success in scoring more points this year, attacking the middle of the field, because it should be open. With the running back situation we have in Abdullah and the tight end and the 2 wide receivers we have, the tight ends and a tight end that has the skill set of Eric Ebron is crucial for this offense. That's why Jimmy Graham had so much success. The running backs and the way the wide receivers were set up, designed in this offense, is very productive for a tight end. And I think Eric Ebron can excel in that this year. If he can catch 40 to 60 balls, go for 600 to 800 yards receiving, great. Between 6 and 10 touchdowns, That's a great season for you, Eric Ebron, and that's what we're looking for. That's what the Lions are looking for, and that's what the Lions need to be a productive offense, to have you attack the middle of that field. And another guy that's going to be able to attack the middle of that field that plays great within small spaces is Lance Moore, the guy we picked up from, well, let's just say the Saints. He played in Pittsburgh last year, but that didn't work out. He never fit that offense. But he's back in a familiar offense. Joe Lombardi coming from the Saints is similar. He'll be able to play that same role he played in New Orleans that he was so successful in. I mean, Lance Moore was a productive receiver. He was a guy that hurts you when everyone else was covered, and that's what we need. We need a guy that can play over the middle and be able to get deep. And he's great in the red zone. He's able to play in small spaces. That's his biggest attribute as a receiver, is his ability to play in small spaces when he gets down to the goal line. He was always a multiple touchdown guy when he played for the Saints. And he was always that guy that killed you slowly because he was always open while you were worried about all the other big names. Bell, Abdullah, Tate, Johnson, Ebron. There's Lance Moore. Boom. It's just another weapon for Matthew Stafford, and if they can keep the pressure off him, Lance Moore will be open a lot. Golden Tate. We all know about Golden Tate. I think he's going to have the same year this year as he had last year. Maybe it could be more productivity. He looks great in the preseason. He looks way more comfortable in this offense, along with Stafford. They look like they have a thing where they can find each other on the field. I think the sky's the limit for Golden Tate. There's not a lot to say with him other than he's a dangerous weapon. His yards after the catch are phenomenal. They were number one last year by far. If he has the same season he had last year, this year, that's just more kudos for the Lions. That's just more success the Lions will have. Calvin Johnson didn't play the whole preseason. Thank God. I was cheering. Now, I know we did a show to trade Calvin Johnson, but I'll stand by the show, and I'll stand by my point. I love Calvin Johnson. He's my favorite Lion probably. But he gets dinged up easy. If he can stay healthy this year, and that's the key. Calvin Johnson, we need a healthy Calvin Johnson, not a dinged up Calvin Johnson, day to day, game to game, week to week Calvin Johnson. We need a healthy Calvin Johnson for optimum success this season for the Lions. We can't have, he's a decoy one game because he's not 100%, he's only 30, and then he's 70 the next week, and then takes a hit and he's back to 30. We need a healthy, productive Calvin Johnson for optimum success for the Lions. And I think he'll get there this year. We need him to be, without a doubt, the best receiver in the league. And he's more than capable of that. He's always mentioned as the best receiver, but we need him to be, no, the best receiver is Calvin Johnson. And he has all the ability to do that. Stafford's there. I think he's going to have a big year this year. I think big things are on the rise for him this season. It'll probably resemble the 22 touchdown season he had a few years ago. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of the receiving core here, the back end, more of the special teams guys, return guys. Kellen Moore was just cut by the Lions. Does that mean the Lions keep an extra receiver, or they keep an extra running back? Or are they going to keep an extra player DB on defense? For my money, I hope to God we keep T.J. Jones. He was in our show, along with Larry Webster, about breakout players for the 2015 season that would probably make the Lions roster and have success, and I'm standing by that. T.J. Jones is the more polished receiver between him and Corey Fuller and Jeremy Ross. T.J. Jones is the better of those two players. You saw it, last night against the Bills when he caught that long touchdown pass. The speed, his fluidity, running the routes. He came back into the ball, caught it, exploded out. The next time he had a shot to catch the ball, he was running between two defenders. He actually slowed down knowing that it was going to take a few more seconds just to get the ball out, and he did. And as soon as he saw Moore throwing the ball, he knew where it was going to go, accelerated into the ball, and on his way he went. I love T.J. Jones. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, and I love T.J. Jones. I think he was a phenomenal sixth-round pick. I think his development's been great, and if you watch the games and you watch him play, the punt returns, the kick returns, he's a big play waiting to happen all the time. I don't even want to argue with it about people. T.J. Jones is better than Corey Fuller. What has Corey Fuller done? Corey Fuller caught 12 balls for frickin' 200 and some yards and 2 touchdowns. I think it was 14 balls. I'll take it back. Sorry, Corey Fuller. 14 balls, 212 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And everyone says he's a project. Oh, a lot of upside. What's the upside there? That is god-awful and terrible, considering all the injuries we had last season to the wide receiver position. And Corey Fuller got a lot of play. He is garbage. He's terrible. T.J. Jones is the option there for the Lions. That would be a formidable passing combination with Lance Moore, Jones. In my personal opinion, I think we should cut Corey Fuller and pick up James Jones, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, onto the Oakland Raiders, who had 1,000 yards, almost had 1,000 yards last season, and played James Jones in the same role he played for the Packers in the same offensive scheme that we run. I think he'd be a formidable player in that offense, and he'd be dynamic in certain situations in the 4 and 5 receiver sets we go. It's better options for Stafford to have a veteran receiver like James Jones. He was just let go by the Giants today. He's right there. He's better than Corey Fuller. He'll have more yards in one season than Corey Fuller will have in his whole career. And as for Jeremy Ross came from the Packers also. He was a shot in the arm a few years ago on special teams when we needed it, but his time in Detroit should be done. He doesn't serve a purpose. He's not getting any better as a player. And James Jones is the player that the Packers thought Ross was going to be, and they were going to replace James Jones with Jeremy Ross, but he never panned out. And I'm glad we picked him up because we needed him at the time. But the fact of the matter is that time's over. So my opinion is we keep T.J. Jones and go pick up James Jones, and that would give us a very dynamic offensive wide receiving core for Matthew Stafford, along with the other weapons we have. I think that would be a great get. He would know the offense. He'd be like Lance Miller. He'd be a plug-and-play guy. He wouldn't even have to learn anything. He already knows the offense, just a little bit different verbiage. So with that said, that wraps up the offensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be more productive this year than they were last year by far, but they're going to need to stay healthy, and the offensive line is going to need to stay healthy. And they only go as far as Matthew Stafford takes them, plain and simple. On to the defense. We did a show a couple months back when Stu signed with the Dolphins, saying that we thought for success, for any sort of success that resembled anything that was last year, that the Lions were going to have to play as one cohesive unit on defense, similar to what the Seattle Seahawks play, but the Seahawks don't blitz as much as we do. But they were going to have to play as a cohesive unit for optimum success for the 2015 season. We signed Walker. He looks really good in camp right now. He looked good in the preseason, got a lot of push. We didn't get any dose of nada, but you can go back and watch Raven games for the last 6 or 7 years and see what Haloti Ngata can do. And Haloti Ngata is not Ndamukong Suh. So if you're expecting Ndamukong Suh type of results from Haloti Ngata, we're not going to get him. He's totally a different player, but he's a very effective player, and I think he'll be effective in Terrell Austin's defense, which is different than what the Ravens had run, because he said he feels like a rookie in this defensive system. And he also likes the talent the Lions have. Small sampling we got of Ezekiel Ansah, didn't play a lot the last couple games, which, sweet. He looked really good. If he can take that next step, we'll forget all about Suh. I mean, it'll hurt a little bit, but it won't be as bad a hit to the Lions and us as fans if Ezekiel Ansah can step up and become a 12 to 15 sack guy this season. I mean, we'll all forget about him. We have Jason Jones, who didn't play all preseason. He was a force last year until injured. We let go of Nick Fairley, but we also got Walker, and Colin Reed seemed to step up the first couple games until he was injured. Now, if that defensive line can stay healthy, I think they'll be highly, highly effective against the run. We might not have the same dominating numbers we had last year, but I think Terrell Austin this season is going to have to grow with this defense as the season goes along. And I think we're going to blitz more this year. Last year we were 34% blitzing. I think we'll be in the high 40s, maybe mid-40s, somewhere in there. But I think we'll definitely be in the 40s for blitzing. So I see us blitzing more this season to get pressure on the quarterback, because I don't think we're going to be able to rely on that defensive line, mostly Suh, to get that inside pressure that Suh just automatically created just by his pure physical force and his football gifts the gods of football gave to him. I think Terrell Austin's going to have to come up with ways to create pressure against better teams. And I think it's going to be a little bit more exciting. I think the players are going to be into it a little bit more. We're going to have James Ahedibo blitzing, Quinn blitzing, DeAndre Levy. Look what he did to Robert Griffin III, cut him right in half. Tier Whitehead, I think, is going to have a phenomenal season. I think he's going to be on the cusp of being an all-pro. I also think Philip Hunt is going to have a very good season for the Lions this season. He could take that ultimately take over that George Johnson role. We lost him to Tampa Bay, which is someone I really kind of wanted back, but they paid him a lot of money to go down there, kind of more money than we were offering him, which is good for George Johnson. But can a guy step up? I mean, like I said, T.J. Jones, we loved him on offense. Our defensive player we thought was going to be Larry Webster, and he looked better last year, I thought, than he did this year. Now, last night he played very well against the lower level guys. He was coming off the ball quicker, but he wasn't as dominant as I thought he was going to be, because I think the Lions expected bigger things from Larry Webster this year. Is another reason why we let George Johnson go, was just we thought Larry Webster would take his place. We got Gabe Wright in the draft. He seemed to play very well for a rookie at the defensive side of the ball, coming into a new scheme and a new league. I like our defense. I do. I like the way it's going. I think Quandre Diggs had a good camp. Now, he didn't live up to all the hype we read about before camp started and all how great Quandre Diggs was going to be. But I think there's something there to work with. Ultimately, I think he's going to end up being a safety for the Lions, take over a head-of-bone spot. Alex Carter didn't play a single snap. He was hurt. Never really liked that pick anyway. I thought Nevin Lawson had a great camp, even though people are saying he was on the bubble to make the team. I didn't see that, but I thought Nevin Lawson had a great camp. Darius Slay looked great. Rasheed Mathis didn't play, but he's a veteran guy. We know what we're going to get with him. I like the overall defensive depth we have. I think it's the deepest. I think overall this is the deepest Lions team I've ever seen as a Lions fan. We're solid in a lot of places. The guy I was very disappointed in this offseason, which I thought he was going to have a great camp too, was Kyle Van Noy, second-round pick 2 years ago. Man, Kyle. He looked good rushing the passer, but that's what he did at BYU. He was a 3-4 guy. Now he's in a 4-3 set. And he even said it's a little bit more learning curve. But Terrell Austin's very high on him right now, saying that he is picking up the defense. It's just going a little slower for him and us than it wants to be. And Van Noy recognized that and admitted to it. So I think that's part of the learning process, is that he admits that he's maybe a little bit behind due to his injury last season that set him back. And you can see it. But that's a good thing for the Lions. If players are getting better year to year, that's good coaching. And that's good development of those players within that coaching staff. So if Kyle Van Noy is behind, good for the coaching staff that he's behind because he didn't get the reps on the field it was needed for him to learn. And now if he can get up to speed just a little bit this year, and they can put him in situations that he is good at and can be successful in, maybe that gives him the confidence to grow as a player, because we don't want him getting down on himself, because all the talent's there. He's long, athletic, fast, tall, physical. Everything's there, but it looks like he's thinking out on the field, especially against the run. It looks like he's supposed to play the A-gap, so he's standing there at the A-gap thinking, oh, the A-gap moves, so he moves over instead of doing his job like we talked about earlier. The key to this Lions defense this season is doing their job and doing it well. They have to stay within the framework of the defense, know their assignments, and be a physical force against these other teams. But play it smart. No dumb penalties, no offsides, none of that stuff. No pass interference. Just do your job. But also with Kyle Van Noy, he was supposed to be injured, and he was on the field last week, so that's a good sign for the Lions, because they need him. They need him to develop. They need that pick to develop, because the expectations of him coming out of college were huge. I was so excited when we drafted him. I jumped up out of my chair. I couldn't believe we got Kyle Van Noy in the second round. He had first-round grades all over him. I just want him to develop. He was one of my favorite draft picks. He was my boy. I wanted the Lions to get him the whole draft. I beat the drum for him with all my buddies. I was like, Kyle Van Noy, Kyle Van Noy. I'm like, who's Kyle Van Noy? So I showed him YouTube videos of him. The kid's phenomenal. He's great at cutting off the run. He takes great angles. He still does. Even when things come to his side, run outside, he's great at cutting off that angle and making that tackle. A solid tackler. He's great against the pass rush. He's just not good against the run, and you can see he's thinking out there. If he can get so he understands the defense as a whole and how it works, I think you'll see him become a little more natural like he was at BYU. It looked like he was out there floating around. And against Texas, against the good teams, not against the bad teams. He just looked like he was moving slow, but in the same respect was playing fast. And then right now he looks like he's trying to play fast but moving slow. So hopefully he comes up to speed and you see the progression and the growth of him all season if he can stay healthy. That's the biggest key. Kyle Van Noy needs to stay healthy for optimum success for the Lions defense and for his growth as a player. Well, that kind of covers the Detroit Lions season. I think we had a good camp. I would love to see TJ Jones make the team. That is my biggest fan love. That was my guy coming in. We all have him, Zach Zenner, whatever. TJ Jones needs to make the Detroit Lions. If he doesn't, he's going somewhere else, guys, and we don't want to lose him. He'll go to the Raiders, or he'll go to the Steelers, or he'll go to the Packers and kill us. I'm not saying he's going to be a 1,000-yard guy, but he's going to be an effective NFL receiver somewhere along the line for a few years. But I would love to see TJ Jones. The overall aspect of the defense needs to be a team defense, playing within the scheme and knowing their assignments. A very physical and focused defense. I think the sky's the limit. I think they could be as effective as they were last year in the top 5. And I kind of hope not. I mean, I hope they are. I take that back. Excuse me. I hope the Lions are effective on defense as they were last year, top 5, but then we lose Terrell Austin to a coaching job, and that would suck. So they can be top 5 and still keep Terrell Austin. Kudos. But offensively, I think the Lions also will be, I think they're going to be highly productive this year. I think it'll be a top 10 offense. I think we'll have a top 10 defense. And I think we'll have a top 10 Lions team prevailing any catastrophic injuries or a whole team full of injuries. I think the Lions will be a top 10 team overall. Stafford will be a top 10 quarterback perching on the side of top 5. And I think the defense will be top 10. They could be the back end of the top 10, but I think they'll be a highly effective defense. Our next show is going to be partly on who made the team. We'll find out more today. The final cuts are today. And we're going to focus on San Diego. How are we going to match up against San Diego? The first game on the road in San Diego. So we'll see you next time at Straight Lions Talk. Like I said, please follow us on Twitter at Straight Lions Talk, STR Lions Talk, and on YouTube channel, Straight Lions Talk, spelled the same way, STR Lions Talk. And again, if you like these videos and you've watched it all the way through, please send it on to your friends, retweets, Facebook posts, Instagram, whatever the source of social media you use, please send it on to them. The only way we can grow is with you guys. So I thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.